All right, welcome to the WTF Divorce Podcast. Today we are lucky to be joined by Shawn McGuire. Shawn is a certified financial planner at Live Oak Wealth Management. Thanks for being here today, Shawn.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Good to see you.
Yeah, well, Shawn and I know each other, and as a financial planner, he is also divorced, so he can relate to a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about today. But I think going through divorce and right after divorce, your head is so scrambled with everything that you almost put off a lot of the stuff that you know you need to do in terms of your investments and everything. Let's talk about like the process of maybe during divorce, but I assume a lot of it right after divorce. What the heck is going on with all our investments that we had during marriage, and now we're in a new position being divorced?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to step back from the situation with the understanding that, as we're built as humans physiologically, we don't have the ability to be able to make a logical decision and an emotional decision. And the way that our brains are hardwired is that we're going to have that emotional reaction before we have the logic sit in and be able to make a level-headed decision. And divorce is one of those subjects where there's a heightened level of emotional situations for an extended amount of time. And it is impossible to be able to make a logical and an emotional decision as well. So it seems like things are flying at you left and right from time to time. That puts you in a situation where you really do need to have folks around you, professionals around you, to be able to help you make some of those decisions with you and for you, possibly. The areas that I see sometimes are the little known areas that people don't think about often. One of the things that I run into very often, because of the situation is so emotional and people are just looking to get it finalized, looking to get it behind them, progress and recover and rehabilitate. And areas like updating your beneficiaries. If you're a resident of Minnesota, you have the luxury of the state disqualifying your existing beneficiary arrangements. But if you're outside of that state and other states that are similar, you need to go and update your beneficiary arrangements, which would include any kind of life insurance policies. A lot of people overlook the group life insurance policy at work. Individual policies, all IRAs, all annuities, all life insurance have a beneficiary designation that just simply need to be updated, which is nothing more complex than writing their name, date of birth, phone number, and turning in a form. But oftentimes, issues like that just simply get overlooked because it doesn't seem important at the time. And here again, when we're so emotionally charged, a lot of these simple logical tasks that need to be done often get overlooked.
Let me ask you, because now as you're talking, I'm like, crap, I got, like you said, you just want to get it done. And the last thing you want to do is start going through all your stuff. What does happen? I know we're all in different states, so probably different situations. What happens if I didn't do anything about my life insurance, beneficiaries, if I didn't change my IRAs, anything like that, and something happens? What does that look like?
The designation of beneficiary is strong. It would require more legal action, is what it's going to require if nothing were done. So let's say, for example, a couple gets divorced. The ex-wife or the ex-husband is still on the beneficiary arrangement. God forbid anything bad to happen, but the worst case scenario does happen, and one of them dies. The existing arrangement is a legal document and will be upheld. If that needs to be changed or updated, it would have to go to a legal situation where you would appeal the court to be able to hopefully process that in your favor or in what's considered fair and equitable. But it leaves yourself in a bad situation. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like, and this is where, as I learn more, finding a divorce team, whether it's a divorce coach, whether it's a divorce real estate agent, mortgage broker, financial planner that understands all of these things, especially having somebody that has gone through divorce. So like, what would that look like? Dust is settled, maybe a few months down the road after the divorce, I would come to you, Shawn, and say, all right, here's what I've got. I've got this old estate or this stock brokerage account with my ex. What now?
Well, here in Georgia, if you're married, you cannot change your designation of beneficiary from your spouse until you're legally divorced. You can change it; it would just require the signature and you know the blessing of your ex spouse, if that could be arranged. Um, the way that it looks, actually, what happened to me one time. This is a good example when I went through my divorce, knowing all this, being the professional on this side, didn't help me in this situation. But months later, my health savings account, which I habitually funded, never took any money out, saved all my receipts from, and built up a nice little nest egg. It was over a year later, actually, that still had my ex spouse on it. So, what would happen is you would pass the company that has the policy or the account, would look at the beneficiary designation on that. They're going to cut a check and send it to them, which is what their job is to do. As soon as they have a death certificate and as soon as they have the letters of testamentary or the will or applicable estate planning documents, they're going to go ahead and process the check without question and send it out. And it would be up to you in that situation or your estate to be able to appropriate those funds in the designation and the manner that you originally intended.
Hmm.
So it would create a headache where otherwise a simple form would just be able to take care of the situation.
Yeah, it sounds like we all procrastinate on these things, but like putting in that time and just getting it done will save you a lot of time, save you from, being in the court system and dealing with a lot of stuff. What are the most common things? I'm sure you deal with a lot of clients that do get divorced. What are the mistakes that they're making, and what are like the main things that you really prioritize and helping them out with?
From a value standpoint, I see a lot of spouses not give themselves enough credit for what's due on their side. That seems along the lines of more of the uncontested style of divorce, but it's also the style of divorce where you may be cutting yourself short if you don't have the proper help and the proper really framing the situation in a fair and equitable view for yourself. So overlooking what is due to you is something that I see that is often overlooked.
So let's say the husband or the wife, one of them maybe isn't so cognizant of the finances, the investments. They come to you, they say, Shawn, I'm divorced. What do I do with it now? Are you generally, is it usually you're changing a strategy, or you have to do like a whole holistic approach about what's going on? Because I imagine a lot of people come to you and they say, I don't even know what we're invested in. This is the first time I'm looking at this stuff. Now what?
Sure. No, I hear that common all the time with my clients anyways. Just financial planning in general, that's one of the first comments that I hear is that we just simply don't know this information. And then you compound the situation of divorce on top of it, and it doesn't make your situation any easier. Okay,
Yeah,
start over.
absolutely.
Yeah, what was I had another point that I was going to go to, but
Yeah, I think it's just like, so let's say I show up. I was married. We were a two-income household, let's say. Now all of a sudden it's just me. Maybe I'm working. Maybe I'm having to take a lesser job to be around the kids anymore. Does that change, the investment strategy that you might have had a year ago when you were married and had a completely different lifestyle?
absolutely. We like to be able to visit and review with our clients at least annually to get an update to make sure that we're both on the same page. But after the process of a divorce, where clearly the situation has changed, yes, it does need to be revisited. Uh, does it need to be comprehensive? No, it doesn't need to be full and comprehensive. Everybody's situation is different and everybody's is unique. So there's not a cookie cutter style or a generic approach or a checklist that it's going to apply to everybody. It's really part and parcel between situations to understand what's meaningful and valuable to you, and quite honestly, what isn't.
Is there a number one tip you would give somebody that's gotten through divorce and now they're looking at all their investments and saying, now what's one thing you would tell somebody to really focus on?
You know, the most fundamental portion of investment advice and financial planning is the written plan itself. And the written plan takes into consideration all the attributes of your current financial profile. It extends them throughout the years of your life expectancy. It's going to show you what you're going to be able to withdraw and count on, in addition to your other income sources. Hopefully, there's a pension, Social Security, et cetera. And when you look at it from that perspective and you understand what you're going to end up with 10, 20, 30, 40 years possibly down the road, that can really guide what is fair and equitable in terms of division of assets. So I like to start from that standpoint, understanding what is it going to look like at the end of the situation, and is that something that you want, or is it something that can be tweaked, or is it something that can be negotiated? But knowing what the exit is at the entrance is really helpful.
In that situation, you're talking about during the divorce process or after it's finalized?
Actually, both. We're talking about doing a written financial plan to understand what your situation is going to look like down the road. That can be done obviously before, after comparisons. A lot of times, what I do with clients in situations like this is run various projections of different scenarios, showing them the outcome of what they've decided and let that guide the process. That way, it avoids just simply being boiled down to an argument between two people on how the P is split up.
Hmm.
It offers a more educated, more in tuned reason for argument on how assets and values and property should be split up.
Talking about people that have never worked with a financial planner, they might not even know what they do, or, oh, that's going to cost me a lot of money. I don't want to start with that. Could you explain to somebody that does come into some investments and they now on their own why it is important to work with somebody?
Absolutely. With the situation of divorce just compounding issues, it just adds another degree of difficulty, I believe. Having a financial planner requires a relationship that is built on trust. I know that is often heard. It can be cliched and stereotypical. But the point of that is it's going to come down to a situation where if you are not in the right frame of mind to be able to make a logical decision about what's best for you, the trust is there to be able to levy that on somebody else that's qualified, is impartial, on your side, obviously, but is looking at it from a logical point of view without having to get the emotions involved in with it. It's tough. It's daunting if you have never worked with a financial planner, because what's going to drive a lot of that decision making process is that people just simply don't want to make a bad decision with their money. If we can get that off the table and the other issues, and really look at what we're focusing on with the finances and the cash flow and the budgeting, the financial plan, proper retirement planning. Once those are in place, that's really what you need to be able to set up the steps for success on down the road.
Yeah, like you mentioned before, I think people's biggest thing is, I don't want to screw this up. I don't want to make a mistake. So a lot of time that leads to inaction. But it
Correct.
sounds like having a conversation, if nothing else, about your options is always going to be worthwhile.
That's correct. I put a large focus on determining what somebody's values are, their objectives and their goals. And here again, that may sound cliche, but it is the absolute truth, is that if we focus on that, we have our steps in line, we have our process that we've been using for upwards of 20 years that will focus on people's goals, their path, and how to get them there in the most efficient and comfortable manner.
Very good. These are all things that now I'm being reminded. 3 years after my divorce, I'm like, man, I didn't get around to a lot of this stuff. So this is giving me the kick in the butt reminder that I think we all need. And not to feel bad about not doing it. It sounds like a really common thing because, like we talked about, the emotional hangover of all of it is tremendous in divorce that we're just not used to. So give yourself some grace and go talk to somebody like Shawn.
Absolutely. Be patient with yourself. Absolutely. The process will get over, and people will heal, people will move on. And that's what I like to see in my clients after the process has been complete.
Absolutely. Shawn, tell people where they can find you.
I'm in Roswell. You can find us at liveoakwm.com. Stands for Live Oak Wealth Management.